So welcome, everyone. It's a delight to be here for Love Reloaded. Yeah, and it was great to be. How many people were here the first time we were together here? Just to get a sense. Yeah. Okay, everyone else wasn't invited back, those other people? Okay, That's good. Yeah. And how many people are new? Got it. Okay. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. So what I'm going to try and do is to actually both create some continuity and to start from the beginning. Because we're trying to do kind of like an unfolding, a kind of evolving series. So this is part 2, but it'll also be part 1. Does that sound fair? We're good? Yeah. She says, whatever. It's good.
Do I have a choice?
Sweetheart. 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 Always. Always. Yeah. So we're going to try and, I was thinking as we're kind of driving down. Good to see you. Yeah. Yeah, total. Total, not on the line. Yeah. We're just actually finishing a kind of 10-week journey with a few thousand people called Awakening Your Unique Self. We just finished last night. So we're kind of, so some of us have met in the virtual of the virtual over the last 10 weeks. It's delightful to be here, and I want to really kind of set the stage for where we want to go this evening, because what we want to do is actually a little different than what happens in lots of forums, which are all good. What happens in lots of forums are all good, but we want to do something a little bit different, and I want to try and kind of just set the context for a couple minutes, then we'll start. So what we're about to do is called Dharma, right? And Dharma is not dogma. Dharma is not a lecture, right? It's not entertainment. It's not wisdotainment, which is kind of a new form, kind of, wisdotainment. It's not that. And it's Dharma. And Dharma has a life of its own, right? It's alive. It's living. You can kind of feel it. It's got a kind of pulse to it. And you can recognize it. And so recognition is kind of the key way we receive Dharma. So we recognize it. It's like, oh, right, like that. So it's like a pointing out instruction, right? One of the things that we talk about in one of the great traditions, Tibetan Buddhism, is a pointing out instruction. And all Dharma is a pointing out instruction, meaning it just points to what you know. That's all it does. It means you know it, but we're going to point to it. And pointing to it is everything. And so we could kind of understand this evening, right, as a kind of Dharma transmission based on a series of pointing out instructions. Now, there's lots of ways Dharma is transmitted. Right? In my lineage, which we're not going to do tonight, right, the teacher would actually talk for hours, just kind of like that. And when I first started studying Dharma kind of in a kind of intensive higher mode, I started when I was maybe 12, but when I was kind of 17 or 18, I graduated, and I went to a place in Israel where there was one kind of Dharma master who was really the greatest Dharma master in Israel, and he would sit with about 400 people, and he would just say the Dharma. That's what he would do. And particularly on Yom Kippur, which is kind of the Hebrew day of at-one-ment, he would kind of start his Dharma thing. And I was kind of the first year there, and I was kind of intent on kind of receiving the Dharma. And so, Yom Kippur is a fast day. So I kind of went and sat, just like you're sitting there, I sat like just right there, like in this hall of like several hundred people, like right looking at him. And he was speaking Hebrew above my Hebrew level at the time, and Aramaic that was above my level of Aramaic. But I didn't want to exactly acknowledge that because I wanted to kind of graduate to kind of a higher level. So I spent the whole night kind of looking at him, having no idea what the fuck he was talking about. I mean, none. I had no idea what was going on. I just kind of, yeah, wow, that's great. Oh, fantastic, right? And he kind of, every once in a while, he's kind of got an ironic smile, which I think is directed at me, but I'm not sure. It's about literally 4 or 5 hours ago. It's about midnight. And, I haven't like looked left. I haven't looked right. So it turns out that in this study hall, the custom was, and on this fast, he would begin Dharma. And whenever people were kind of, they'd had enough, they were done, they'd leave. So actually, there was no one there at the end but me and him, right? We're the only 2 people there, right? And I guess he had to stay because I stayed, right? He wanted to leave a couple hours ago, right? But that's how Dharma works in that system. We're not going to do it that way, right? The way we're going to do it is we're going to do 3 pieces of Dharma, and each piece is going to have a Dharma. It's going to have a beautiful, ecstatic musical expression with Lady Tanya. And Tanya means, by the way, in Aramaic, let the wisdom be spoken. Tanya. Right? Let the wisdom be spoken. Right? So let the wisdom be spoken. Right? So we're going to have from Tanya kind of a musical, right, incarnation embodiment. And then we're going to do a practice. Okay, so each piece of Dharma is going to have a Dharma, right? It's going to have, embodiment in music, and it's going to have practice. Now, one more piece of introduction and we'll start. At some point this evening, you should feel decidedly uncomfortable. I hope, right? You feel like, I want to leave. Like, why did I come to this? I can't believe he just said that. Right? If that doesn't happen, then the entire evening was a great failure. And I apologize for that in advance. So if you just have a sweet, melodic experience, oh, that was so sweet, then I just completely fucked up this Dharma evening, and I should have been a lawyer, and I just apologize in advance. Right? Because the job of Dharma is to comfort the afflicted, but also to slightly afflict the comfortable. Right? The purpose of Dharma is to challenge. Right? Dharma challenges our worldview, our Weltanschauung, right? The way we understand the world. And so I'm trained in what's called Kabbalistic Dharma. Right? I've started with a close friend of mine, a guy named Ken Wilber, something called World Spirituality, which is a new international movement that we started of a kind of trans lineage, trans path, where we've kind of tried to take the best of Tibetan Buddhism, the best of kind of Vajrayana, right? The best of Kashmir Shaivism, the best of mystical Christianity, right? The best of Hebraic, right, practice, together with kind of the leading edge insights in kind of physics and economics and conscious capitalism, right, and the 8 or 9 major different schools of psychology. We've tried to weave them together into this new Dharma, which we're now writing in a book called World Spirituality, right, this kind of vision. And so I'm going to draw from all those places, but hopefully woven together, right, into a coherent vision of the patterns that connect. Okay, I want to get that sentence again. Into a coherent vision. Hi. How's it going there in the cheap seats? You look kind of, okay? We're good. We're good. It's a good hat. Man's got a good hat. But who's got like the best kind of like, I mean, that face, look at that guy. So that's like unbelievable. I mean, right? I mean, you should be a spiritual teacher, man. I mean, he's got it going on. Right?
I thought it was you.
You know what I mean? I mean, oh my God. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like Osama bin Laden, but don't worry about that. Awesome. He's infinite, and you can just feel his infinite sweetness. That's so awesome. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of weave this, and we're going to try and weave a vision, I'm going to say it again, of the patterns that connect. I'm going to say another 2-3 words or 2-3 sentences. I'm not going to punctuate them well, right, of introduction, because I'm just kind of setting the tone. We haven't started yet. We're just kind of, we're saying hi. So a couple more things. The most compelling grand narrative of this age is that there is no grand narrative. So I want everyone to get that sentence. You try and weave a grand narrative in the university today. I did my academic doctorate stuff at Oxford. You get thrown out of the university. Right? Anyone who claims to have a grand narrative is viewed as suspect and is essentially thrown out. Right? Because the contemporary university is in rebellion against the old world of dogma. With me so far? But the contemporary university confuses dogma and dharma. Right? Dogma is something that somebody believes, created a system of credo around it, requires you to believe it, even though you have no first-person understanding or access to that truth. Right? Dharma is a coherent vision of the patterns that connect, that you can actually access and validate in your first person, even as you're also accepting a piece of it based on a deep, not faith, but trust, right, in the system, the person, right, the energy, right, that you're engaging. Now stay with this for a second, okay? Because it's big. The people today that have a vision of the patterns that connect are the various fundamentalist worlds, right, that dot the globe. And if you think that's a minor issue, let's step out of our San Francisco bubble, right, in our bubble within the bubble within the bubble, and then remember that 70% of the world lives in an ethnocentric population that's guided and governed by dogma. That's a lot of the world, right? It's a big deal, right? And actually, those dogmas are ethnocentric, homophobic, fundamentalist in 1,000 different ways. But the liberal world, the progressive world that all of us in some sense view ourselves as being part of, hasn't actually provided an alternative. Right? We don't believe in anything particularly. We kind of believe in everything. Right? We kind of do a little potpourri, a little of this and a little of that, or we entertain there, we heard that idea, we check that out, right, as we kind of masturbate our way through life. Right? Right? Masturbation's not bad. You know, sex with someone you love, as Woody Allen said, and good cuddling afterwards, right? But, right, you know, but it is not making love, okay? Right? And there's a kind of spiritual masturbation, right, in the kind of liberal progressive world where everybody's involved in their own experience. How's my experience doing? Right? Did I have a good experience? Who the fuck cares if you had a good experience? Like, let it go, man. Right? Let's participate for a second in the evolution of love. Right? Let's actually take responsibility, take center seat and say, yeah, I'm actually responsible for the whole thing. Actually, I'm the person who initiated the Big Bang. I was there, because where else could I have been, right? And when that singularity happened, right, and that energy initiated the cosmos, there I was. And I'm going to step into the center of this thing and take responsibility for it. And I'm not just responsible for my experience. I'm not just responsible for where I am in the particular emergence of my particular life at this particular time. I'm actually taking a big view. I'm taking an evolutionary perspective. And I'm saying, wow, I'm at the center of this, and I want to try and articulate a vision of the patterns that connect that not only move me, but actually move the world. An alternative vision to a fundamentalist dogma is a progressive Dharma, but which isn't potpourri. It's not pick and choose. It's actually a vision that's compelling, which maintains radical freedom, radical choice, and creates actually a radical sense of responsibility, joy, and, big word, obligation. I want to put that word out there, right? Obligation, wild word. Not obligation to some religion that's going to tell you what to do, not obligation to the law, right? Right? Not obligation to, you know, a societal parental structure, but obligation in the deepest, most wild sense of the idea, meaning there's something I gotta do. Right? You're madly in love, you haven't told her, you gotta do it. That's obligation. You gotta do it. You can't do it, not do it. You're a wimp if you don't do it. You missed your life if you don't do it, right? You gotta do it. There's something that I've gotta do. It's not a choice, it's not an option. It's not a good deed. You gotta do it. And if we can't articulate a compelling sense, a grand narrative, a vision of the patterns that connect, right? A Dharma that actually unites us, right? A shared spiritual language, which is non-fundamentalist, then my friends, we are lost, right? Because actually that 70% is going to take the day, right? I remember being in Boston Square when George Bush was elected, talking to a friend of mine, Erica, and we were teaching a series of classes on spirituality at Harvard Law School, and Erica said, I can't believe he won. Who voted for him? Right? It was like she didn't know anybody, right? Who could, and anyone in her circle thought that George Bush was kind of rank evil. So it was just like shocking to her that there were people outside of, right, Harvard Square that voted for him, and he won. Well, he sort of won, but you know, kind of like that, right? Something happened there. Okay, so that's our framework. Our framework is, right, is we want to participate this evening together in the evolution of love. We want to weave a Dharma, and we want to weave a Dharma that works for us. But that's not the ultimate standard, right? If it's not working for you, step back for a second. Look at a bigger picture, then step back in, right? I'm not saying to nullify yourself. I'm saying bracket yourself. See the difference? Right? Bracket. Just let's see this big picture together. And if we can see it together, I think what we'll see is that it's actually so alive. It actually speaks to us in such a compelling, personal way that it's actually shocking, right? And something begins to emerge from it. We're actually participating, right, in the evolution of love. So I want to just ask for that as an intention. That's the end of our kind of introduction, and we're good. So is that fair as an intention, everybody in the room? We're cool, we're good? Yeah? Yeah, cheap seats over there, you're good? Yeah, we're good. Love, yes, I know, good seat. Good seat, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Now, when I walked up, you were saying something about your ass or something like that? Do you want to, let's let that go, okay. I'm like, what was that exactly? Okay, okay. Okay, ready? We good? Yeah, let's go drum roll. A little drum roll here. Get a little drum roll, a little energy here. Yes. Drum roll. Okay. All right. Awesome. Awesome. How you doing? Okay, you don't know that yet. You're not sure yet. I can see you're not sure, but give it some time. I know. We're okay. You look kind of good in that chair. Nice, like the goddess. The goddess is in the chair. Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay, here we go. So, I'm going to begin where we began in part one. And we're going to kind of take off from there in a different direction. Okay, here's our statement. This is the statement that we began with in part one. We're going to begin with it in part two, and we're going to move from here. Okay. We live in a world of outrageous pain. Fact. Let's start with a downer, right? This is not the good news, okay? but it's true. We live in a world of insanely outrageous pain. Right? Do you remember when we were in 6th grade and we learned that slavery was over? Remember that? Like Lincoln, Emancipation Proclamation, no more slavery, Confederates, war. What was that guy's name? Robert E. Lee. Remember all that stuff? Gettysburg? Well, they lied. I'm just sharing that with you. They lied, right? There are 17 million slaves in the world today. That's shocking. There are 17 million slaves today. About 10 million of them are sexual slaves, right? Girls, 14, 15 years old, 13, 12, right? Living in the most horrific conditions you can imagine, servicing 40, 50 men a day, 40, 50 men a day, right? A complete violation of the goddess, right? In the most abject, horrific terms, right? So actually, we don't live in the generation in which slavery was abolished. Surprise, right? And what are we doing about it? Right? Wow. There's 17 million slaves in the world today. Let's just keep going for one more second, right? 20 million children die every year. Every single fucking year, right? 20 million children die on the planet, right, of malnourishment or diseases related to, even though there's enough food to feed them 4 times over. I mean, it's just beyond. It's like, really? And that's the response, the Saturday Night Live response to reality, right? Really? I mean, really? What are we doing about it? Oh, we're involved in spirituality. I forgot, sorry, right? It's shocking beyond imagination. So we live in a world of outrageous pain. I think we all know that. And we kind of forget it. So the only response to outrageous pain is outrageous love. Okay, the only response to outrageous pain is outrageous love, and I want to, by the time we end this evening, whenever that is, right? It's not going to be that late, but I want that sentence to actually make sense in a whole different way than it does now. Okay? So the only response to outrageous pain is outrageous love, and the characteristic of outrageous love is it's got to be outrageous. Okay? So the invitation of the outrageous lover is to commit outrageous acts of love. That's what an outrageous lover does. An outrageous lover commits outrageous acts of love. And the outrageous lover keeps every boundary that should be kept. Right? You with me? The outrageous lover keeps every boundary that should be kept and breaks every boundary that should be broken. Okay? And the first act of outrageous love is, write an outrageous love letter. Right? Like find someone that you're kind of close to, but you haven't really said it. You've been relying on a roomie. How many people in the room know what I mean? You've been relying on a roomie. Right? Right? We got to know that, right? Roomie and Hafiz. Hafiz is doing it for us. Right? Well, but actually, when we talk about the democratization of greatness, and what we're going to call tonight the democratization of enlightenment, the democratization of creativity, you can't rely on roomie. You got to do it yourself. So the first act of outrageous love is write an outrageous love letter. Or commit an act of outrageous love and tell us about it and write us in an outrageous love letter about what happened. And a little bracket parentheses, in the next, month, 2 months, by the fall, we're going to launch a kind of international insane campaign called Commit Acts of Outrageous Love. And just kind of invite people all over the world to kind of step into that, what that means. But let's kind of figure out what that means today. Let's kind of stay with this, okay? So, part 1, that's part 1. Right? The only response to outrageous pain is outrageous love. We walk the path of the outrageous lover. The outrageous lover commits outrageous acts of love. And first act, write an outrageous love letter. Okay, part 1. Let's comment on that. That's kind of the old, that's a sutra. That's a text. So now we're going to do the old sacred tradition. We're going to comment on the sutra. Let's kind of unpack it together. Okay? Okay, so what does it mean to commit outrageous acts of love? And actually, what does love mean? Right? Love is one of the words that makes least sense. We don't really know what it means. Is it a Hallmark card? Right? Love's such a great word. And this is where we began when we began the first time. Right? We've killed all the gods and the goddesses except for Aphrodite. Because Aphrodite is the goddess of love. Right? And our sacred text today is, I love you. And I love you. No. I love you. You. I love you. I love you. What does that mean? We used to know what it meant. I love you means I'm going to marry you, we're going to have 3 children, a dog, and a white picket fence, right? a couple of affairs, but we'll stay together and we'll die, right? That's what it used to mean, right? That's what it used to mean. We had some sense of what I love you means. Right? Today it's very confused. What does I love you mean? Right? I love my dog, I love you. I love baseball. What does it mean? What does I love you mean, right? I mean, and you know what a sacred text is by what you recite before you die. Right? So in classical kind of Hebraic text, you say, right? Jews in the room, anyone? A couple. Shema, right? Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, is one. Die. Okay? You know, why you're doing declarations of theology before death is a separate question. It's actually an interesting question we're not going to talk about now, but that's what you say. Right? If you're a good Hindu, you say, Om Namah Shivaya. Right? Om Namah Shivaya. Om, I greet, Namah, I greet you, Shivaya, great Lord Shiva. Om Namo Bhagavate Muktanandaya. Right? I greet you, right? Ecstasy of liberation. But we say something before we die. If the World Trade Center's hit, and people are about to die, we have the transcripts. Right? This kind of international event of sacred text. What do people say? They say, I love you. No one calls and says Shema. No one calls and says Om Namah Shivaya. Right? Everybody calls home and you listen to them. You ever listen to them? It's just like, you got to do that. Just go home and just listen to it. It's like people calling home and they know this is it. And everybody says, I love you. That's our sacred text. That's our sacred credo. That's our declaration. Our declaration is, I love you. But stay with me. When words lose their meaning, culture collapses. Thucydides, Peloponnesian Wars.